but I think it's funny. He did a solid for me a couple years ago when I was on Yahoo Sports Radio, and he came on the show with me, and he like rarely, if never, does radio interviews. And I found out he likes Sinatra and everything, and I brought him on with Sinatra, and it's on the archives. But he was great, and it's funny. There's something back then when we were talking about. I think it was about everybody was at the time about Vigneault's head, and in terms of him getting fired, and it was something like, no, there's no way that's going to happen. It was something like that, and then not too long after that, it happened. It was pretty funny.
Did you talk to him about the torch, saying he's going to beat him up at the bus stop, or he looks like he's been beat up at the bus stop, whenever that back and forth was, that classic, YouTube clip?
I didn't get that time to do that.
See, look at you.
I know. Well, they were classic exchanges.
No wonder why you had been blocked.
I only had a few minutes. I couldn't get everything in there.
You were kissing up to him.
I wasn't kissing up to him.
Oh, my God.
I wasn't kissing up. It was, but it was cool. But anyway, I've always liked Larry. He's kind of cool stuff. So I think it's fun because he gets people just, he gets them all crazy and stuff. So I love that. I love sitting back and watching that. I love seeing.
He wrote something the other day. He had the Kako piece.
Yes,
he wrote the other day. I read that. I did read that because I saw somebody, I saw somebody complaining about it.
What did he say in that article? What did he say about Capo Caco?
That he's too stubborn. That's what he was saying. He's too stubborn that he wouldn't change his game, that he was hanging on to the puck too long, and that's why he was having a tough season. But he finally was getting away from that, towards, the last couple of weeks before they shut the season down. And that's why he was playing so much better. It was actually a fair piece. He really wasn't killing him. He was saying, he wasn't calling him like a bust or anything. He was saying he's stubborn, and a lot of great players are stubborn, and he's one of those guys who are. Because he wouldn't change.
How does an 18, 19-year-old have the right to be stubborn on the New York Rangers or playing for? I don't get that.
Well,
Explain
I don't know.
to me.
Yeah, maybe stubborn isn't the right word. I mean, look, he's going to use it to sort of sensationalize, but, I just think it's, this worked for me. Why do I want to change it? I mean, I'm the second overall pick because I played this way. But, I mean, he was playing on, bigger rinks and, against European competition, and there's not a lot of physicality and whatever. But, he's, as I say all the time, he's still young. And he thought he could do it, continue to do it the way that's worked for him. And, to me, that's understandable. I mean, look, this worked for me. Why do you want me to change? But
after 60 games, he finally had so much potential.
Well, look, sometimes it takes a little longer. When you're 18 years old, you think you know everything. And it takes maybe a little punch to the gut, and which is what the season has been for him, or was for him. And he finally was figuring it out towards the end of the season. That's okay.
All right. Well, we're not gonna go back into the Kako windmill or whatever they call that. What's that term? I can't think of it right now. I'm useless as far as that's concerned. But let's talk about Brooksy there and just some local. Any other thing locally that you've seen? I mean, anything that's been interesting you stood out or whatever? Because I like I said, what I was talking about before was, local writers. Everybody's just trying to come up with content to kind of keep, people, looking, reading, and stay relevant and all that other stuff. But I mean, is there anything else that's standing out for you? Or I mean, have you been? Let me put it this way. Where are you at as far as your longing for hockey, even let alone the Rangers?
You know what? It's funny. I love that the season would still be going on right now, but I'm not like searching the internet every second of every day. Like, I need Ranger news and what is going on and blah, blah, blah. I just think there's too much going on right now, with, trying to do stuff with the kids and making sure that they're just,
more important,
not scared about everything that's going on and trying to make life as normal as possible for them. And then just doing stuff to keep yourself sort of occupied where you're not, just, again, on the phone all the time or on your computer all the time where, again, I'm going for walks with my wife and I'm out playing sports with my son. I'm playing, card game. I was teaching my middle daughter how to play Texas Hold'em today. The good stuff.
What's the story with you? Violence in games, and now you're teaching your daughter how to become a hustler? What's the story, man?
Hey, look, they're going to grow up at some point. They got to be prepared. They got to be prepared for real life. You can't go out there and be the sheep. You got to go out there and be the wolf, Paulie.
Oh man, you crack me up. All right, so let me ask you this.
So to be honest, I'm not following much out there. If there is anything, I'm really not dealing. Like I mentioned, my boy Fitz, he's been posting like clips, like little game clips of overtime winners and playoff stuff. That's literally the only Ranger content I've been consuming.
Yeah, stuff that we basically have to watch holding a teddy bear and a glass of red wine.
Yeah, you know what? I enjoy looking back on that stuff because, you sort of forget about those times. But, I really love those teams. I did. I mean, I had season tickets back then, and I just loved that team. I mean, beyond, just having the season tickets, I just love that sort of blue-collar mentality that team had. It started under Rennie, and Lundqvist sort of coming in as a rookie, and Jágr being on the team, and him and Nylander and Straka, and how that sort of got passed off to Callahan, Dubinsky, and Stahl, which then has sort of turned into this team and that process. But I love those teams right there again out of the lockout, and Jágr and Lundqvist.
Hey, what'd you think of Coach Rennie, man, when he was here?
I loved him. I loved Rennie.
I thought he was a class act, man. I enjoyed him when he was here.
I was a big fan of Rennie's. I mean, look, I did think he ran his course, and they did need to make a move at the time. Actually, I was at the last game he coached before he got fired. That was the game where they did they retired. Whose numbers did they retire? Who were the two older guys that they retired? Why am I forgetting their names right now? But it was a jersey retirement, number retirement. And they came back and tied it in like the last second, and then they lost in overtime, and then they fired Rennie the next day. So, I really enjoyed him. He was part of the sort of turning it around after, the 8 years of not making the playoffs. It was Lundqvist, it was Jágr, and Rennie. And if you look at, I'm a huge Sean Avery fan. I mention him all the time in this podcast. Sean Avery thrived under Rennie because Rennie realized the type of player he was, and he let him go at it. Where when Avery started getting into trouble and everything, it was Torts. Torts didn't like him, and didn't like his act, and didn't like what he brought. And that's where the problems became. And Avery sort of never lived up to the player that he probably could have been here in New York. And obviously he left for Dallas, and we all know what happened there. So, I really enjoyed Rennie. He had, I would have liked to see him open up the offense a little bit more, which is why they brought in Tortorella, because he sort of had that run and gun in Tampa. And what's funny is that Tortorella sort of came here and the offense was terrible. It was very similar to the Rennie offense. It was score 2 goals and hang on for dear life and hope Hank held on. But, I did enjoy Rennie. Like you said, he was a class act and, always did, the right thing. And he was sort of the opposite of a Tortorella, real calm, cool, collected in there. And he's one of the big reasons. And he's not talked about enough as far as what he did, coming out of the lockout and the 8 years of them not making the playoffs. He was a big part of that as well. Just as big of a part as Jágr and Lundqvist. So, I loved Rennie.
Yeah, no, me too. I mean, I actually had I didn't have full season tickets. They used to, back then. They used to be able to do like a half season tickets. It was 28 games or something like that or whatever. I had center ice. It was like 200 section. I had amazing seats, and then it was funny because I got them before the lockout, and then after the lockout, they changed everything. It was screwed. I was so angry at them because it was like they were begging people to buy tickets. And then after the lockout, they were like, well, now we're going to change everything because, they got the long-term contract. It was so weird. It was so money. Anyway, that was Harry Howell, the retired.
Yeah, it was Harry Howell.
February 22nd.
It was Howell and it was somebody else at Bathgate. It was Howell and Bathgate.
Yeah.
Were the two guys and I got to tell you, Paulie, it was a sad showing, my friend. The arena was half full.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, it was
I
bad
went
back then.
I went to the game. No. It was half full for the ceremony. The game
Oh.
was packed.
Oh, okay.
They did it, before the game, and I went to the game. I went to the game with my uncle, who has season tickets. And he's like, "Oh, do you want to come to the game?" Yeah, definitely. And so we went early for the ceremony. And I'm telling you, half full, if that, half full, if that. Yeah, it was a sad showing. I mean, look, I was also at the Richter jersey retirement. That wasn't half full. That was jam packed. And it's sort of sad.
Yeah,
I mean, the
it's
Rangers
different.
have such a long tradition. I mean, hey, look at me. I didn't even remember the names of the guys at the thing, but yeah, it was Howell and Bathgate, and it was a great ceremony, but there was definitely a lot less excitement surrounding it, which was sort of sad. But again, they had that ceremony. The game itself is amazing. Like I said, they tied it in the last second, and the game was awful. I think they tied it to make it 1-1 or 2-1. It was, of course, typical Rennie low-scoring game. And then I think they lost in overtime, and then that was it. That was his last game, and then they brought in Tortorella.
I'm just looking at here. Sather made the coaching change after Sunday night's loss to Toronto. The Rangers' 10th defeat in 12 games. They were in 5th place in the Eastern Conference and 2 points from 9th and out of a playoff spot.
Are you looking at the game recap? Does it say that they?
No, I'm looking at
last second. Oh.
It's like it's the hiring of Tortorella.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, they definitely lost the game, but they had tied it, and I think maybe Dubinsky scored. If that really happened, wow, that I remember that. But yeah, good times, man.
Rangers had gone 3 years in a row to the playoffs after a 9-year drought, which is crazy. And they were in first place for the most part of the season. Then they started dropping, blah blah blah, so on and so forth, and then. Yeah, Tortorella, 7-year tour in Tampa, and was Rangers assistant. Oh, my God. John Muckler. Remember the Muckler days, buddy?
Terrible times, my friend. Terrible times.
Oh, my God.
Him and Trottier.
I couldn't even look at him. Oh. Now I got a drink. Here, hold on. Oh, my God. Brutal. All right, so anyway, we're talking about nothing really going on. That's all we got is the memories right now, KD. All we have are the memories, the good ones and the bad ones, like Muckler. Look at it. So, I think you mentioned to me something about we would just maybe talk about or speculate, as far as or maybe just really look at the reality of. Whenever the league gets back or life gets back, and we can't even talk about hockey, whenever life gets back to normal and they let us out again, and if the Rangers are starting to look at their contracts for certain guys, and some of the guys you wanted to kind of just talk about a little bit was, Strome, DeAngelo,
trade him,
Fost, and Georgiev. So why don't you just maybe give everybody your take a little bit on those couple of guys here.
Yeah, actually, the first thing to think about with it is what's going to happen with the salary cap, because they were talking about bumping it up to anywhere between, I think it's at $81.5 million right now or something is the salary cap, and they were talking about bumping it up to anywhere between $84 million and $88 million, which would be amazing, and then sign them all, to whatever they want. But, I saw something today when I was doing a little research for this that was wondering if maybe with the league shutting down and obviously revenues being cut short this year, whether they don't bump up the salary cap because of obviously the season ending early, which is something interesting to look at. So that will have a huge sort of ramifications in what the Rangers or any other team is looking to do with their free agents. But for me, I think as far as with that sort of put aside, for me with Strome, the Rangers have a lot of the leverage here because he's still a restricted free agent at the end of the year. And he has arbitration rights, which is fine. And they'll go to arbitration. And I think he's making let me look. I think he's making $3 million a year right now, 3.1 or something like that.
Okay.
3.1. So he'll definitely get a bump, which is fine. But my concern with him, as it always is with any player, was my concern with Kreider anyone else is how long of a contract